You don't really know, did she comprehend? Did she read the word? What are we doing? So by doing something like that, we were able to match up sentences and images, and then she could tell us, we could say, okay, this is the picture, now look and read the two sentences and tell me which one matches that photo. Really a simple thing. Over time, we've obviously had to modify that. Now we can easily go, pardon me? Yes, Twilight is a big book for her. She's on their third in the series.
Yep.
And so as each chapter has come along, Erin's been able to find pictures online, download, print off the pictures, get a couple simple sentences, and then Jo can do sort of her reading comprehension to show that she's actually understood what we're going through. As a teacher, I go to Teachers Convention, a number of different stores. I'm always finding things, and a simple flip chart for story writing for kids is actually a fantastic way for Jo to be able to write stories. You can flip through, you can offer her a number of options, although she has her favorites.
See if I can find it really fast. Well, we might just need to say, we were writing sentences, and her favorite thing was when someone was in the washroom. They were jumping in the washroom. Her sister fell in the washroom. Anything to do with the toilet specifically, she thought was hilarious. And so we had a whole page of things. No, I can't find it. She knows exactly where it is. Of anything that was in the toilet. And so anything fell, anything jumped, anything slept, lived. Oh, it was funny. Yeah.
I think you should tell the word family story.
Okay, so here's an example of Jo being completely neurotypical and not always following the rules like any other neurotypical kid should. So we'll talk about some of the things we use later on, but one of the things Jo uses as a radius to work on phonics. And so I had pulled out a sound family, and it ended up being IT, it. So the first thing we did was we talked about a bunch of words with it, and we broke the sound down, and we talked about some of the words that, like other beginning words that we could make to make it. And so then I pulled out Jo's IntelliKeys, and I said, okay, I want you to make me a word that has it in it. I don't care what it is, as long as it's one that we haven't talked about. Jo looks at me, laughs, and smiles. I then hold her hand, and she pushes S. I'm like, oh dear. And then I got H-I-T, and she laughed. So she howled and howled and howled. So I was a little worried about this, but I'm like, I can't comment, I can't say anything, because then it's going to become a big joke. So that was fine. I was like, no, another word, please. So she picks another word. And then, I can't remember what the ending was.
The second one?
There was another word similar. So then I hid the UCK, and we moved on for the day.
And she started pulling out word families that had inappropriate options.
Yeah, we don't do those anymore. So that's Jo being neurotypical.
Keep going.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still Vanna, apparently.
When Jo was in grade 1, we purchased the IntelliKeys keyboard and the whole classroom suite system between kindergarten and grade 1. So we worked on it over the summer, and then from grade 1, 2, and 3, she used it quite extensively. She did a lot of her journal writing, a lot of her sentences, and it worked really quite well. This is just some basic story writing where your typical grade 1 sentences, Halloween is, and you have to figure out your options. And that's just like every other 5, 6-year-old kid, what kind of stories they would write. She's moved on certainly to more advanced things that she can write with them. And one of the things that we did purchase was obviously the Balanced Literacy Program. And so at this point, we ran into a bit of a snag where for grade 4 and 5, we had a fantastic, wonderfully kind person working with Jo who really didn't get Jo's personality or her abilities. And my husband and I have an added complication to the fact that we are both teachers, and my husband teaches in the same school board as our daughter attends. And so we have to be very cautious and careful about what we can say or do when situations are maybe not perfect. So for 2 years, she missed out on a few certain key academics. We tried to kind of supplement things as much as we could at home, but now she's in grade 6. She has Erin, who is our superhero. And so she's doing a lot of great at grade 6 academics. But the reality is there's some language learning, some spelling, some phonics issues that she's missed out on. And there's some math concepts she's missed out on. And it's not cool when you're in grade 6 to have to go back and do rhyming words and all of this stuff. So what we've done is given Jo the job of teaching her sister how to read in English. And so she worked through the whole balanced literacy program with her sister. And we obviously that was the only way we could come up with that she would find it was acceptable to do things that she considers beneath her 11-year-old years. But it works out fantastic that she is still getting the same concepts. The books work well. Olivia sits beside her. Olivia learns some English, speaks a little bit more, and it actually really works quite nicely. Erin mentioned the Radius, and this is a device that really is just something that's sold in regular teaching. It's not meant to be for kids with disabilities in any way. However, when I came across it, what I thought was quite ingenious is that as you run the cards through it, it'll read the information and then ask you multiple choice questions. You have 4 colors to choose from, and really, it's meant to be for kids to use in a center. It's fantastic for Jo. There is a variety of grade level information. There's science, there's math, there's all kinds of stuff in the program, but it's all designed to be answered with a choice of four answers from the questions. So she can go through it. She thinks it's fun. It's not as boring as the regular science stuff. She gets a bit of review, and it's more to her physical abilities. Thanks, Vanna. Now, many people have heard of reading rods, and for the most part, in schools, our budgets tend to be quite limited. We're fortunate that some friends of ours set up a trust fund years ago when Jo was first diagnosed, and usually once a year or once every 2 years, they'll hold some sort of fundraiser. So there's always maybe a couple $1,000s floating in there that we can access if something comes up. So one of the items that we purchased was the actual Reading Rods reader. And so a lot of kids will use the rods and just link them up to write sentences or to write words. Jo has the one where you can slide it through and it'll read them for you. So we were able to pick up a number of buckets. Each bucket has the envelope or the pocket, as well as the books that support it and question and answer cards. And so it's something that she can do either with her sister, depending on the concept, or on her own. And it's actually a great way for her to be able to work on some of her fluency, some of her comprehension, sentence building, and some of those skills that are a little bit tricky and maybe not as age appropriate. We often make reference to this book, and it's fantastic to be able to sit through presentations by Karen and David. They are gurus as far as things that I've been studying. I've been to a few of their presentations in the past. But one of the things I find is people always talk about children with disabilities, the 4 Blocks book, and you never actually get to see what it looks like. If you don't have it, it's a fantastic book. It's on the shelf right beside the regular 4 Blocks book, and it's not any more expensive, but it's very helpful and has a lot of ideas.
Okay, so I think some of you said you're more school-based. So does anyone have any successes? Successes with working with kids with communication difficulties in school? No?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. At one point when I was younger, I was asked to help out with some of the kindergarten kids, and there was a young boy there, and at birth, his vocal cords were not quite developed, so his speech, he could make grunting noises, but he was making words was very difficult for him to do. And I felt badly for him at the time because, I mean, they must have had, or must have much lighter models of vocal, you put in words and you press the buttons. Now, he had this 40-pound device lugging around his neck, and he's only in junior kindergarten, but I learned to do some sign with him and learned from him sign to communicate. I mean, I learned a few words offhand, but I was able to communicate with him that way and take him to the library to get books. I hope now that he has a lot more accessible things that won't nearly choke him as he's walking down the hall. He was such a little guy then.
You would think they have changed, but the devices are still just as heavy. And I'm sure Jo appreciates that we don't make her wear it, but it's the same deal, right? That's one of the reasons that we can't have it right beside her at all times, because it is so heavy still. And that IMAX is just 10 times heavier, so it's always more complicated. Okay, sorry, did you have something too?
Yes, we have a child who has autism.
Yeah.
He's nonverbal, and he just started typing away and playing with computers, and we just allowed him, as Karen would say, scribble with it, because that's all he seemed to do, bang on the monitor, turn it off, unplug it. And people were saying, you know, why did we bother putting the money into the equipment? He's not using it effectively. Well, last year, after just a few years of scribbling on the computer, he just wrote the provincial testing here, the EQAO test, and he's at a level 3. He also did his, he went to reconciliation. He's in a Catholic school, and he was able to go do reconciliation by having his computer and typing away what he wanted to say to the priest. And he felt so good, and he was so pumped when he came back to school the next day, and he wrote quite a lengthy letter sharing how he felt and how his parents must have been so proud of him to be able to see him go through. This is a milestone for him as a Catholic student.
That's fantastic.
Look at chills.
So,
It's awesome.
this is a tough book.
Okay, okay, yeah. Cool. Yes. No, you're, yeah.
There was a sort of a success again out of a big challenge that a couple of years ago a teacher came into our into Bridges and wanted to loan a communication device. He had a kid who was in grade 8 who's nonverbal and who's the only device that he had ever had access to was a step-by-step. That was it, and he felt that this could do more. And he was astonished that the kid had gone this far. He said, look, you know, I've only got one more year with him, and then he's going into high school, and then what's going to happen? Anyways, and he had been through variety clinical assessments and all, and somehow it had all just passed him by. And so out of his own teacher budget, he first took the least expensive device he could get, which was a Go Talk. He took it for loan, came back in 2 weeks, figured out how to use it himself, read some stuff on communication strategies, tried it out with the kid, and said within 2 weeks, the end of that loan period, the kid was changing the overlays himself.
Cool.
So he said he came back, he bought a device out of his own budget, out of his own teaching budget. I think he even had supplements as well. And he came back and talked to me later and said, yeah, we got the clinic people to come back, and he's being assessed for a dynamic display communication aid now.
That's fantastic.
That's fantastic.
We have that teacher.
Yeah, that's an
But
awesome
it's like
teacher.
so frustrating. It's
Oh, yeah.
What about those other 7 years?
No
you know?
kidding. I will get to you in just 1 minute. Yes.
We're also from Alberta, very close to you guys, and I have a nonverbal boy, cerebral palsy boy in my class, and talking about age appropriate is just so vital. And his favorite thing to do on his step-by-step is we have the boys in the class record all his messages, and sometimes I'm not smart enough to pre-listen to them, and so like sometimes the boys think it's really funny to record things that are well typical 12, 13-year-old boy things, and next thing I'm teaching social studies at the beginning at the front of the room about the Renaissance, and next thing I hear, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, all the way through. And I just ignore him because I thought I acknowledge this, and then, you know, and that's on his step-by-step, this sucks, Mrs. Berry, stop talking, this sucks, Mrs. Berry, stop. I think it was the whole 40-minute class, and I just thought, I better not acknowledge this, because if you do, he's going to find great joy in this. But yeah, age appropriate is just so important.
Absolutely.
So glad you hear that too. And sorry, your story? Yeah.
I'm autistic myself, although I'm higher functioning, so speech wasn't much of a problem. It was my reading. I took a long time to read, and I still have a lot of difficulty spelling. Although I was diagnosed much later because I'm a girl, and also because I'm 21. So 1994, you know, they figured something was weird, but they didn't have a name for what it was. So I didn't get a lot of the programming. But one of the things that they did get for me was device, and it would show me the 3 types of words, and I'd have to pick the right one in a set amount of time to find the proper spelling. And they also set me up with Dragon Naturally Speaking and Dragon Dictate, though I personally found that that typing was faster for me than speaking it.
Yeah.
I prefer to type rather than to write. It's a lot faster.
That's
but
fantastic.
a lot of this stuff just wasn't there, and the teaching staff was not available. I also enjoyed what you were saying about the parents family member is not really getting it for a while.